The winner is Rex Harrison.
Rex Harrison had conquered Hollywood and won multiple awards, but one thing terrified him: singing. When he was cast in My Fair Lady, nobody knew their leading man had never performed in a musical. On opening night, that secret exploded into a full-blown crisis that nearly ended his career. From locked dressing rooms to desperate threats, this is the untold story of how Broadway's biggest hit almost never happened. Rex Harrison was born as Reginald Carey Harrison on March 5, 1908, in Huyton, England. He was the youngest of 3 children in his family. When he was just 7, a severe case of measles left him partially blind in one eye. It was something he kept secret from most people throughout his life. This setback might have stopped someone else, but for Rex, it shaped his path. Since he couldn't take part in physical activities like other kids, he found joy in acting and storytelling. At just 10 years old, he decided to change his name to Rex, meaning king in Latin. It was a bold move for a young boy, but it showed the confidence and ambition that would define him later. By the age of 16, Rex had started his acting career. His first big opportunity came at the Liverpool Repertory Theatre in a play called 30 Minutes in a Street. On his debut night, he ran onto the stage to deliver his single line, but tripped and fell in front of the audience. For most people, this would have been embarrassing, but Rex didn't give up. Instead, it made him more determined to succeed. Over the next 3 years, he acted in 50 different roles, trying out all kinds of characters and styles. This intense period helped him improve quickly, and he began to develop his sharp timing and witty delivery, which would later become his trademarks. In 1930, Rex made his debut on the London stage in a play called Getting George Married. He played a character named Fred Thrippleton, and his performance caught the attention of critics and audiences. But instead of staying in London and chasing fame, Rex decided to join a repertory company in Cardiff, Wales. This move surprised many, but Rex wanted to try more serious and challenging roles. While he worked hard in dramas, it became clear that comedy was where he truly shined. Audiences loved his humor and charm, which helped him decide to focus on light-hearted, witty roles in the future. Rex Harrison's rise to stardom begins in 1930, when he made his first film appearance in The Great Game. He was only 22 and had a small, uncredited role as a character named George. The film itself was about football, with a young player helping his team rise to success. While Harrison's part wasn't big, it was his first step into the world of acting. Being on set allowed him to watch and learn from seasoned actors, sparking his love for the craft. His charm and distinctive voice caught the attention of people in the industry, even in that tiny role. This gave him the drive to pursue acting seriously. In the years that followed, Harrison took whatever roles he could find. He worked in small, low-budget films known as quota quickies. These weren't glamorous, but they gave him much-needed experience. Slowly, he started to refine his skills and build relationships in the film world. These small jobs were stepping stones, each one bringing him closer to something bigger. That big moment came 10 years later, in 1940, when Harrison starred in Night Train to Munich. This was the role that changed everything. The film was set during World War II, and Harrison played a British spy pretending to be a German officer. His mission? To rescue a Czech scientist and his daughter from the Nazis. It was a mix of action, humor, and suspense, and Harrison nailed it. Audiences loved his clever and charming performance, and critics took notice too. The film's most exciting scene happened on a cable car near the Swiss border. Harrison's character was in a shootout, while trying to escape to safety. It was tense, thrilling, and unforgettable. This moment not only made the movie a hit, but also cemented Harrison as a leading man in British cinema. The movie did incredibly well, even in the US, and opened up new opportunities for him. When World War II began, Rex Harrison's acting career was on the rise, but everything changed in 1942. At the age of 34, he joined the Royal Air Force, RAF, and served for 2 years. He worked hard and reached the rank of flight lieutenant, which showed his dedication and ability to lead. Life in wartime wasn't easy for him. His home was nearly hit twice by German flying bombs, known as doodlebugs. These close calls were a constant reminder of how dangerous life was during the London Blitz, both for soldiers and people at home. Harrison's time in the RAF wasn't just about danger. It also changed him as a person. He learned discipline and made close friends while working with people from many different backgrounds. These experiences gave him a deeper understanding of people, which later helped him become a better actor. While in the RAF, he met Lily Palmer, a nurse. They fell in love, got married, and later worked together in films. Their relationship became a big part of his life and career. After leaving the RAF in 1944, Harrison worried about restarting his acting career, but his time in the military had made him even more respected. Audiences admired him for serving his country, and he brought new depth to his roles. In 1945, he made a big comeback with 2 important films, Blithe Spirit and The Rake's Progress. In Blithe Spirit, he played a writer haunted by the ghost of his first wife. It was a new type of role for him, full of sharp humor and clever dialogue. The movie, directed by David Lean, didn't do well at first, but over time it became a classic. The special effects even won an Oscar. Still, Harrison found the work challenging. He hadn't acted in years and felt shaky about his skills. He also clashed with the director, especially when they disagreed about how certain scenes should be done. That same year, Harrison starred in The Rake's Progress, a film about a rich, carefree playboy named Vivian Kenway. The character starts out fun-loving, but later faces guilt and tragedy. Harrison had to show all these changes, and he did it brilliantly. The film ended with the character redeeming himself by dying a hero in the war. This storyline really connected with audiences who had just lived through World War II. The film also stirred controversy in the US, where censors cut out scenes they thought were too risque. Despite this, The Rake's Progress was a big success, earning over $1 million in US rentals. Rex Harrison's journey to Hollywood began with Anna and the King of Siam in 1946. This was his first big American movie, where he played King Mongkut, a man trying to balance tradition with new ideas. Irene Dunne played Anna, the British governess who came to teach his children. The film became a big success, winning 2 Oscars and making people notice Harrison's acting talent. His role as the curious and thoughtful king showed he could play complex characters, and it opened doors for him in Hollywood. It also got him a long-term contract with a big studio, 20th Century Fox, which helped him take his career to the next level. After this success, Harrison became popular in romantic comedies. People started calling him Sexy Rexy because of his charm and confidence. In 1947, he starred in The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, a story about a ghostly sea captain who falls in love with a living woman. This movie mixed humor and romance, showing that Harrison could make people laugh and feel emotional at the same time. It became a classic, and his charm on screen made him one of Hollywood's favorite leading men. But his life wasn't all smooth sailing. In 1948, Harrison got caught in a scandal that shocked everyone. He was having an affair with actress Carol Landis, even though he was married to Lily Palmer. One day, Carol was found dead in her home after taking too many pills. Harrison was the last person to see her alive and was also the one who found her body. At first, he denied they were romantically involved, but many people didn't believe him. Carol's maid said Harrison visited her every day that week. There were even rumors of a secret suicide note meant for him, which Palmer later admitted she paid to destroy. While Harrison didn't face any charges, his reputation took a big hit, and the scandal caused 20th Century Fox to end his contract. To rebuild his career, Harrison turned to theater. In 1948, he played King Henry VIII in Anne of the Thousand Days on Broadway. This role was different from the romantic comedies he was known for. It was serious and dramatic, and he played the king as both charming and ruthless. The play ran for a long time, and in 1949, Harrison won a Tony Award for his performance. This win helped restore his reputation and proved that he was more than just a movie star. He was a talented actor who could handle any role. This success on stage gave Harrison a fresh start. He showed that even after personal and professional struggles, he could rise again. It also prepared him for the role that would define his career, My Fair Lady. In 1956, Harrison got his most famous role, Professor Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady. But he almost didn't take the part. At first, it was offered to Noel Coward, and Harrison wasn't sure he could do it. He had never been in a musical before, and he was 48 years old, which made him worry about whether he could handle such a demanding role. Plus, singing on stage made him nervous since he had no training. Harrison was cast only 5 weeks before the show started. He had to learn 15 songs and a lot of lines very quickly. To make things harder, his co-star was Julie Andrews, a young actress with an amazing singing voice. She was only 20 years old and still unknown in the US, but she was incredibly talented. The difference between Harrison's talk-like singing and Andrews's powerful voice created a challenge. Rehearsals for My Fair Lady were tough. The cast worked 12 to 14 hours a day, and Harrison needed extra help since musicals were new to him. The director, Moss Hart, spent hours helping Harrison and Julie Andrews create the right chemistry between their characters. Even though there was a big age gap, Harrison was 48 and Andrews was 20, they managed to make their on-stage relationship believable. It was February 4th, 1956, a cold winter evening in New Haven, Connecticut. The Schubert Theater was packed with people excited to see the pre-Broadway debut of My Fair Lady. The musical was based on George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, and everyone had high expectations. Backstage, the cast and crew were busy getting ready. Julie Andrews, just 20 years old, and playing Eliza Doolittle, was calmly reviewing her lines. Everything seemed set for a great show. But there was one big problem. Rex Harrison, the lead actor, had locked himself in his dressing room and wouldn't come out. Harrison had starred in Shakespeare plays and Hollywood movies, but he had never done a Broadway musical before. Singing in front of a live orchestra terrified him. In those days, actors didn't use microphones, so he had to project his voice over 32 musicians to reach the entire audience. The pressure was too much. He paced in his room, calling the musicians those 32 interlopers and saying he couldn't go on stage. As the minutes ticked by, things got worse. Harrison refused to leave his dressing room, even as the director, Moss Hart, and the writers, Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Lowe, begged him to perform. By 7:45 p.m., just 45 minutes before the show was supposed to start, panic spread backstage. The theater manager suggested canceling the show, but the producers didn't want to risk the bad press. Some cast members even started leaving the theater, thinking the show was doomed. Julie Andrews, however, stayed calm. ready for whatever might happen. With only 15 minutes to go, the theater manager came up with a bold idea. He threatened to tell the press, including famous gossip columnist Walter Winchell, that Harrison had stage fright. The thought of public embarrassment worked. At 8:25 p.m., just 5 minutes before curtain time, Harrison finally opened the door. He was pale and shaking, but agreed to perform if Moss Hart explained to the audience that the show was still a work in progress. The curtain rose 10 minutes late, but the show went on. Harrison, despite his earlier fear, delivered a powerful performance as Henry Higgins. He used his nervous energy to bring the character to life. The audience had no idea what had happened backstage and loved the show, giving a standing ovation at the end. Critics loved it, with one calling it the best musical of the century, and another describing it as a miraculous musical. The audience felt the same. After the first night, ticket sales reached a record $246,000, which would be worth over $2.5 million today. Everyone wanted to see the show. Rex Harrison, who played Henry Higgins, became a star because of this role. At first, he didn't even want to do it. He wasn't confident about his singing and didn't think he was the right fit. But instead of traditional singing, he created a talk-sing style that worked perfectly for the character. This unique approach became his signature and changed how some musicals were performed. In 1957, his work earned him the Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical. When he accepted the award, he joked, "I was terrified to play this part, and I thought I couldn't sing." This honesty made people love him even more. That same night, My Fair Lady won big at the Tony Awards, taking home 6 trophies, including Best Musical. Julie Andrews, who played Eliza Doolittle, didn't win for Best Actress, though. She lost to Judy Holliday from Bells Are Ringing. Still, the night belonged to My Fair Lady, and its success didn't stop there. The show ran on Broadway for 6.5 years, with 2,717 performances. It broke records and made millions of dollars, more than $20 million, which was huge back then. Over 5 million people saw it during its first run. In 1958, the show opened in London, where it was just as popular. It played at the Theatre Royal for 5.5 years, with 2,281 performances. This made it the longest-running show in the theater's 300-year history. When Warner Brothers decided to make the movie version of My Fair Lady in 1964, they knew no one else could play the sharp-tongued professor. Harrison was perfect for the part. Filming started in August 1963 and ended in December. Harrison already knew the character so well that he worked with the director, George Cukor, to adjust his performance for the camera. Movie acting needed smaller gestures and expressions, unlike the big movements used on stage. This was a new challenge for Harrison, but he handled it beautifully. Harrison cared deeply about the details of the role. He insisted on keeping the original British dialogue from George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, even arguing with the filmmakers to make sure it stayed true to the story. His passion and attention to detail helped make the movie a big success. In 1965, Harrison's performance won him the Academy Award for Best Actor. The award was presented by Audrey Hepburn, who played Eliza Doolittle in the film. Harrison charmed the audience during his acceptance speech, joking that he should split the award in half and thanking everyone who worked on the movie. He also gave a special mention to 2 fair ladies, probably referring to both Julie Andrews and Audrey Hepburn. The movie wasn't just a success for Harrison. It won 8 Oscars, including Best Picture. Casting Harrison had been a gamble. He was older than most leading men, and his singing style was unusual. But the risk paid off. His win was even more impressive. because he beat out big names like Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole, who were also nominated that year. While Harrison's vocal style became a defining feature of the film, Audrey Hepburn faced a very different challenge. The studio decided early on to dub most of her singing with the voice of Marni Nixon, a professional singer, but didn't tell Hepburn right away. Hepburn had worked hard with a vocal coach, believing she would perform her own songs. When she learned about the dubbing, she felt deeply hurt and betrayed. The dubbing process itself was meticulous. Nixon studied Hepburn's speaking voice to match her accent and tone. In some songs, Hepburn's voice was blended with Nixon's for higher notes, but most were entirely Nixon's work. Despite the seamless result, the incident sparked controversy. Many believe it played a role in Hepburn being overlooked for an Oscar nomination, while Julie Andrews, who wasn't cast as Eliza in the film, won Best Actress for Mary Poppins that same year. The controversy also brought attention to the often uncredited singers behind Hollywood musicals. Over time, Nixon's work was recognized as exceptional, but Hepburn's disappointment remained a significant chapter in the film's history. Years later, some of Hepburn's original recordings were released, giving fans a chance to hear her own take on the songs. Rex Harrison's life was as dramatic as the movies he starred in. Over 50 years, he married 6 times, and every relationship had its own story of love, heartbreak, and scandal. His first marriage, to Marjorie Noel Collette Thomas in 1934, ended when he started an affair with actress Lily Palmer. This wasn't a one-time thing. Rex often had overlapping relationships, and this pattern would follow him for the rest of his life. In 1943, Rex married Lily Palmer, and their marriage lasted until 1957. They worked together in plays and films, but their personal life was far from perfect. In 1947, while still married to Lily, Rex started a very public affair with actress Carol Landis. Things ended tragically when Carol took her own life in 1948 after spending the evening with Rex. This scandal rocked his career, and his contract with Fox Studios was terminated. A few years later, Rex did something surprising. In 1957, he married Kay Kendall, knowing she had leukemia and only a short time to live. He kept her illness a secret from her and made it his mission to care for her during her last years. She passed away in 1959, leaving him devastated. Rex's fourth marriage, to Rachel Roberts in 1962, was full of drama. Rachel was an alcoholic, and their relationship was fiery and unpredictable. They divorced in 1971, but Rachel couldn't let go. She tried desperately to win him back, but when she failed, she took her own life in 1980. His fifth marriage, to Elizabeth Reese Williams, lasted from 1971 to 1975. His sixth and final marriage to Mercia Tinker in 1978 brought him some peace. Mercia stayed with him until his death in 1990, giving him stability in his later years. Rex was known as Sexy Rexy for his charm and romantic adventures. This nickname came from his ability to sweep people off their feet, both on screen and in real life. He was handsome, confident, and magnetic, but his relationships were often filled with controversy. His affair with Kay Kendall began while he was still married to Lily Palmer, and his connection to Carol Landis became infamous because of the tragic way it ended. But Rex wasn't just charming, he also had a dark side. He struggled with alcohol and was known for being difficult on set. While filming Dr. Dolittle in 1967, he caused a lot of problems. He made unreasonable demands, delayed the production, and changed his mind about how his singing should be recorded. Rex's temper also got him into trouble. Once, at a party, he punched Frank Sinatra because he thought Sinatra was flirting with Lily Palmer. Later, when he realized he was wrong, He apologized, and the two even became friends. Despite all the drama in his personal life, Rex was a brilliant actor. He had a unique ability to put aside his troubles and deliver unforgettable performances. His life was a mix of charm, talent, heartbreak, and chaos, making him one of the most fascinating stars of his time. Rex Harrison's later career was filled with remarkable performances that showed his versatility and charm. Even as he grew older, he continued to captivate audiences in films, on stage, and on television. In 1971, he starred in a television adaptation of Chekhov's Platonov. His portrayal of a disillusioned schoolmaster struggling with a midlife crisis was praised for its depth and earned him a BAFTA nomination. 2 years later, in 1973, he returned to the London stage in W. Somerset Maugham's The Circle. The play ran for an impressive 245 performances, and critics applauded his performance as Lord Porteous, calling it a brilliant display of comic timing and aristocratic flair. During this period, Harrison also ventured into television, hosting a series called Rex Harrison Presents Stories of Love. Premiering in 1974, the show introduced audiences to classic love stories, with Harrison sometimes starring in the episodes. It was a hit, drawing an average of 15 million viewers per episode. In 1978, he took the Broadway stage in The Kingfisher alongside Claudette Colbert. The play ran for 193 performances, earning him a Drama Desk Award nomination and proving that even in his 70s, Harrison had the charisma to draw audiences. His film career during this time included two standout roles that remain iconic. In the 1963 epic Cleopatra, Harrison played Julius Caesar. The film's production was plagued by delays and budget overruns, becoming one of the most expensive films ever made. Despite the chaos, Harrison's performance stood out, blending authority and wit. Critics praised him for bringing subtle humor to the role, making Caesar one of the film's most memorable characters. 4 years later, in Dr. Dolittle, he played the eccentric doctor who could talk to animals. Although the film struggled at the box office, it later became a cult classic. Harrison's rendition of Talk to the Animals even won an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Filming wasn't easy, with humorous incidents like a goat eating his script, but his charm and comic timing shone through. In 1989, at the age of 81, Harrison received one of the highest honors of his career when he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. The ceremony at Buckingham Palace was a fitting recognition of his 6 decades in theater and film. Harrison, known for his wit, joked during his acceptance speech that he had played royalty for years, but this was the first time he was officially recognized as nobility. The event was celebrated with a grand luncheon at the Savoy Hotel, attended by prominent figures from the entertainment world. Messages of congratulations poured in from all over the globe. Harrison's final stage appearance came in a Broadway revival of The Circle in 1989-90. At 81 years old, he returned to the role of Lord Porteous, which he had first performed in 1973. Critics were amazed by his energy and skill, with one review calling it a masterclass in wit and timing. The play ran for 208 performances, closing in May 1990. Sadly, just weeks after the production ended, Harrison passed away from pancreatic cancer on June 2, 1990. His final performance was a powerful reminder of his extraordinary talent and marked the end of a career that spanned nearly 7 decades.